a new agency opened its doors in the UK. It's called New Commercial Arts, and it's the latest venture by former Adam and Eve founders James Murphy and David Golding. So Campaign caught up with four of NCA's new team to find out all about the company and exactly what it's like to launch a new agency into the black hole of a global pandemic.
Hi, I'm Charlotte. I'm a creative. I say art director to my parents because it sounds better, but yeah, creative.
And I'm technically her work wife, so I'm Laurelie, the other half of Prince and Sesh, as we sometimes call ourselves. I think like what's different about this role just compared to our last is with kind of startups and stuff, although we technically have a role as creative, we kind of, you have to sort of do all sorts of things and just jump in and get involved. So as much as that kind of structure of knowing what your title is, it's also knowing how to break out of it and stuff like that. So yeah, all sorts probably over the next few months.
Brilliant. And the other two of you, who are you?
So I'm Ian, creative founder. I guess that also makes me CCO, ECD, creative director, senior writer, I guess, as well. And then to the point just made, everything else as well. I've put together my first ever PDF document yet last night, which was quite an achievement for me. So yeah, it's the big title and everything in between as well. So that's me.
And the man who looks like he's sitting in a very fancy barn, but
I'm sitting in a pub because I can't get any signal in my house. So I've come to the local pub and they've let me in very kindly. I'm here on my own. I've got the keys, which we would have thought would be the best thing in the world, but there's no booze or food or anything here whatsoever. So it's keys to an empty pub is a bit disappointing, but I'm here and the signal does work. So that's very good. I'm David Golding. I am a founder alongside Ian and 8 other people of New Commercial Arts, with James Murphy, who thankfully isn't here, so we can all, the rest of us, get to say something. And in the past, James and I have done the old startup, and this one is a fresh start for us after a year in the garden, and I have to say, I cannot be more revved up to go.
Excellent. Now, David, you and James launched Adam and Eve together, and you sold it to Omnicom, and it's now the biggest agency in the UK.
Right.
Just briefly, before we get into the meat of your new business, why did you leave and why did you want to go again?
Well, the two are very connected reasons, really. And we didn't leave in a kind of fitter's peak or anything like that. I mean, my affection for Adam and Eve remains completely 100%. I adore the people who work there and I adore the agency that we collectively created. It's just that Adam and Eve is a large company, as you've just pointed out. It's the biggest in the UK. That's an awful lot of people to look after, and that's an awful lot of not doing your day job. It's just helping other people do theirs. And James and I are not the best at that side of things. That's not the thing that gets us out of bed in the morning. What we enjoy is actually doing the work ourselves and getting into the muck and bullets of the actual business. And the bigger the Adam and Eve got, the further away from the actual business we started to become. And so it was simply a decision to go back to scratch and do what we enjoy doing most of all. And that really is working with a small, tight team of people, cracking problems for clients and actually doing it ourselves, not just waiting for someone to come around and go, look, I've done this. So it's just going back to the beginning and being practitioners again.
And Lorelei and Charlotte, you were something of a star team at Leo Burnett. Quite a brave thing, even braver now in retrospect, obviously, that we're in the middle of the biggest social and economic crisis of our lifetimes. But what persuaded you to quit Leo Burnett and take this leap? And how scary did it feel?
It's funny that you should say brave, because we've had so many, like, our families are all like, hang on a minute, you're joining an agency that doesn't exist. And especially with what's going on at the moment, obviously you could say that was brave, but I think, I mean, we just knew, what a brilliant opportunity it was, but going back to what DG said and about that sort of like hustle and really getting into the ideas and stuff, like we actually met at a startup. So before Leo's, we met at the Corner, which was kind of a startup kind of agency too. So we're kind of used to that way of working and we really missed it. And we just love getting as involved as we can, and we got told off sometimes for getting too involved. But I think it's nice that it's sort of with like open arms kind of thing. This is the new way of doing things, and yeah, we can't wait to get started properly.
I think it's a bit of a no-brainer when 3 people that have made the best ads in the world come and ask, do you want to come work for us and learn from us every day? I mean, to be honest, we probably would have come and worked for free. So yeah, I think it was a no.
Right, okay, make a note.
It's fine. We'll cut that bit out. But yeah, I mean, we'd have done anything to get that opportunity. So we're very grateful and lucky to be there and learning from the masters.
Excellent. So, and Ian, you were, I think, when David and James announced they were leaving Adam and Eve DDB and they were going to launch a new agency, the big question at the time was who was going to be the creative partner. And I remember back last autumn, lots of names were circulating. I knew quite a few people that spoke to the pair of them, and some people getting quite excited about the prospect of joining them. From a creative perspective, you were at BBH, which is one of the most creatively respected agencies in London, and the world. What persuaded you to take that leap when it was just James and David on their own? Then there wasn't a crew; it was just the two of them coming to you.
Yeah, I mean, well, in many ways, yeah, the job I had was the dream job. You know, doing what was technically Hegarty's job. I never would have thought I'd have got to that when I left college all those years ago. So it was the dream job. But all of us, Hegarty himself, of course, everybody has the other dream of trying to do their own thing as well. So any creative worker sort of has that in the back of their mind. And then to quote Charlotte, really, it was a no-brainer when these two got in touch because they are the absolute very best at what they do. So if you've got half a thought of doing a startup and then the two best practitioners that complement you come along calling, then you sit down with them and you get to know them first. And again, to your question you just asked David, to find out what their ambition is and how serious they are at going again. Do you like them? That's a huge part of it. And you know, we discovered fairly early on that we got on very well and we share the same beliefs. And then once you've gone through that, then it became, then it really was a no-brainer. You just go, you've got to do it, because opportunities like this are few and far between.
But how nervous were you about the idea of being the third person in this kind of professional marriage? You know, James and David have worked together an awfully long time and are extremely close. Did that worry you in any sense?
No, I mean, as I said, I had to, you know, we were obviously talking quite a long time ago. So those early conversations were one-on-one, you know, so I met James several times on his own and David on his own many times as well, because I had to sort of flush that out and understand them as individuals. But there's no nervousness there. You know, I've always been, anyone who knows me knows that I'm a big believer in the triumvirate, you know, the three different skill sets working collaboratively together. So I think it wasn't nervousness at all. It was just, and I also know that, you know, they are, you know, the account man and the strategist are nothing without us. So they need the creative person. So that's, you know, they're nothing without, well, I'm going to say without me, but they're nothing without the creative partner. So there's nothing to be nervous about.
So you're 1 week in, and I know that at least two of you have just come out of what I think might be your first pitch, but you can confirm that for me. How did it go?
It's been a pitch, yeah, and I very much doubt that it's concluded. Or you know, I'm sure it isn't, but it went. I think it went extremely well. And
but not your first pitch.
Amongst that first one, yeah. Certainly.
Let me ask.
I would say that certainly the most meaningful one by quite a considerable margin. This is our first real kind of in the agency at real pressure, at real test moment. In one, and it was absolutely sensational. I mean, thoroughly enjoyed almost every moment of it. And there's lots for us to say as we go through the rest of this session today about the experiences of pitching and the technology and the Zooms and the challenges of that side of things, and we'll come on to that, I'm sure. But the reality of it has been that this team of people, and I think it's worth bearing in mind that some people on our team haven't met other people on our team in person. They've only ever met on a Zoom call. And the camaraderie and the level of collective ambition and ability to work together has been, I would say, utterly astonishing. And I would say that the presentation that we've just made was as good a caliber of presentation as we have ever made. And we've done it all remotely, sometimes from pubs in the middle of nowhere, and it hasn't held us back. And what has stopped it, what has driven us forward is a determination and a genuine ability to work well together.
Yeah, I think it went very well. It's I suppose you do a pitch and often you come out and think it went very well. It's harder to tell via these calls and things because you can't really see, you can't read body language like you can in the room. But from what we could tell, it went very well. We almost ran out of time at the end because there's so much stuff to talk about. And Davey's Wi-Fi held the whole time, which was good. We've been dropping out. So I think it went well as it could.
I've got a thing, Claire, which is because as you pointed out, I've been around the block a bit on this industry now, and for my definition of a good pitch is one that I genuinely enjoy, and you enjoy it when you hand over to your colleague and you go, I'm looking forward to this bit, because you know what they've got is really good, and you know they're not going to fumble presenting it. And often in the past, you've got someone who's really good who's presenting rubbish, and you're like, oh my God, please don't let the client see this or see through it. Or you've got someone who's got gold and they're mumbling their way through and it's a disaster. And the presentation that we just did, every handover, everything that we each individually said or brought to it, I was hugely looking forward to what that person was going to then say next, and the journey that the whole presentation together. And no one disappointed. It was brilliant.
Excellent. And are you going to tell me now or when we stopped recording who the client is?
Not going to tell you that, but all the beer that's got in this pub.
Charlotte, Lorelei, what's your first week been like? Tell me what the highlights have been.
It's been very, very busy, but it's gone really quickly. It's sort of weird when you don't go into work. The sort of days sort of blur into one. But I guess a lot of our friends I know it's a bit of a weird place, the industry out there. So I think we're feeling mostly really grateful for the position that we're in, and that we have the ability to do these amazing pitches and get our foot in the door and do work that we would want to make, not work that we're making to sell and get the client in. And so everything that we've come up with collectively has been super exciting, and just fingers crossed, I guess.
I think so many articles and news stories and memes and everything just keeps referencing the times, and everyone's like, oh, stop saying it's in these times. But we kind of do need to remember this is a weird time. So we do feel very fortunate for the position we're in. But positively, like, all things considered, it's gone so well. And like, we do just keep forgetting we've not been in a room together. It is strange, but it does just work, which obviously is like a great feeling.
And have the two of you, have you because you two have worked together obviously for quite a while and know each other very well, but have you noticed any annoying or endearing peccadillos from your colleagues so far? Anything you'd like to share that you've kind of...
I thought you were going to say about each other, and I was like, yes, of course.
Oh,
that's your each other all the time.
These things about each other?
I think it's really, I'm really interested to see whether the sort of characters that have been built in my head are the same ones that are going to be when we actually get in a room together. Like, obviously,
shatter the illusion, but in reality,
it's interesting of like the humour, especially, and laughed generally at just weird Slack conversation messages in a room by myself, which is always a good sign. So I'm sure it'll be a lot funnier when we're all in a room together.
David and Ian, what's been the most surprising thing so far? Because you've been on this journey since last autumn together. What surprised you most, apart from small thing of a pandemic coming along and completely throwing all your plans up in the air? What else has surprised you?
Well, I mean, that's that's obviously that's everything really. It's been so extraordinary how the world's been turned upside down and everything. But we're sort of almost past that now. And I was going to say, we just talked about it really. What surprised us is how adaptable we've been to the situation that came along. Everything we just talked about with how everyone's just getting on with doing it like this and not in the real world. So that's been surprising. I think the other thing for me personally is, maybe it shouldn't be surprising, but the support and the positivity that I've felt from the industry as a whole. I mean, I'm sure there are certain people that want to throw rocks, but as a majority, I felt such a wave of positivity for what we're trying to do, and the kind of people we are, and a general, feeling that, maybe there's room for a new agency, and that, we can feel that a bit of love coming through, which I think has been surprising in some ways.
Yeah, mine is slightly different in that the sort of premise of New Commercial Arts, and the bit who's not represented here, is the customer experience side of the business, and that is an increasingly, well, it is a profound and big fundamental part of our offering. And I've been enormously surprised the extent to which working with Rob and Ian together over this last week or so, there's not been a sense of, right, we'll do the brand bit, Rob, you do your customer experience bit, and let's hope they meet in the middle. There's been a genuine sense of, we're building a model from brand and customer experience together, working together from zero. And to be honest with you, it actually makes it a bit harder, what we're attempting to do, because as we've been discussing it ourselves, it's easier to come up with something that works brilliantly, or an idea that works brilliantly for a piece of comms communication campaign, or something that works brilliantly to guide a piece of customer experience. But coming up with an idea that can guide both, is just a double thing. It's a double hurdle you have to get over. But the result is always going to be much better. So I was concerned that maybe we sort of all go, right, we've got some customer experience team, we've got some brand team, and the fact that we sit in different bits and do different bits, and that's, we can offer it, but we don't bring it together. And it's been the complete and diametric opposite of that. Everyone has been working as one single, totally fused team, which is the model we intended to create, but you never know until you actually put it into action.
Yeah, I think in the way we've reported the model, the interview that I did with James last week, he's very clear that you're offering something unique in this market. I mean, I wouldn't say it was something that nobody else was doing, but in terms of the pitches that or the conversations you've had over the last week with clients, are they coming to you looking for this joint kind of comms and customer experience service, or are people still coming to you for the more traditional stuff?
I would say 50-50 so far, which I think is quite a good strike rate, actually, because the natural assumption would be you get a lot of people ringing us up going, do us a John Lewis. And that's not really what we're about as we move into this, into New Commercial Arts. We want to do end-to-end branded customer experience with comms as important as the rest of the experience. And I would say, 50% of the interest in us has been on that profound end-to-end offering. And so we're a week in, so let's see how it pans out. But I'm hugely heartened by that. And in terms of James's, is it unique? I don't know that it's necessarily unique in the market, but I do believe that it's unique that an agency has been built with that offering, as opposed to merged or fused together with that offering. And that means that you inherently work together from day one in a different way, as opposed to, some of the tissue rejection that may be the reality elsewhere.
Yeah. Okay. And Lorelei and Charlotte, tell me what you're most looking forward to now as the months unfold.
The thing I'm most looking forward to is shooting, actually. I think seeing a lot of ads that look very similar out there, and I'm excited to work with a director and try and figure out how we can shoot in an interesting way in this new sort of world that we're living in, and how we overcome those hurdles to create ads at a standard that they used to be when we had freedom to go and be wherever we want to be. So I think it's going to be an interesting problem to try and tackle and get hold of. So yeah, I'm excited to see what that would be like.
Definitely seeing how sort of we adapt and the industry adapts and changes, and like positively, obviously, like we're in a weird, like everyone's working, our lives are a lot slower than we're used to. I think everyone in the ad industry works at 1,000,000 miles an hour, which is amazing and brilliant, but it's also teaching us to slow down a bit. I don't think I'm ever gonna think or worry if I haven't got weekend plans anymore, like once we get back to normal, that's for sure. But I think mainly getting together, finally having a beer, actually working in the same room and brainstorming together. I mean, you can't beat that. As much as working remotely is doable and can be done really well, there's nothing like getting in the same room together. It's just completely different. So that will be exciting to do. And then obviously getting back to Soho, just all the food, all the drinks, and we miss Soho anyway, but now we really miss it.
And Ian and David, what's your biggest hope for this agency? How will you know when you've achieved your ambitions? What's that going to look like?
You're going to go first. Let's go.
Well, no, I mean, you'll probably talk about the model. I mean, rightly talk about the model and how we're going to work, and that's going to produce different things. I mean, attached to that, I just say, I really want us to make work or come out with work that people see or experience or whatever in the real world. Across the nation, I think that there's been there's a bit of a bubble at the moment, and there's a bit of a sort of an awards lens on things that's become increasingly so over the years. And I see that the opportunity, and what I personally want to do is just make work that everybody loves, that does everything. That's what got me into this industry in the first place. I want my cousins in the Isle of Wight and family around the country to see this work and love the work, and for it to be talked about in bus stops and over water coolers. And I think that's the opportunity we have. And I think that's what one of the factors that I think of as success is the work that everybody's talking about.
And David, you've kind of had the ultimate success. You've made a lot of money and you've reached the top of the tree. What are you hoping for this time round?
Well, two things really. In a kind of professional sense, I'm hoping that, as Ian says, that this new end-to-end model is something which does connect with clients. I mean, most clients have gone from, or a lot of clients have gone from being chief marketing officers to chief customer officers, and we're positioning ourselves as being a great partner to a chief customer officer. And I want to be an agency that's sort of helping build that CCO generation of marketing, rather than just the chief marketing officer. So I think, being instrumental in a kind of new generation of how marketing works would be fantastic. And secondly, and I think we've said this publicly before, I would like this chapter of my career to be more fun than the previous ones. Adam and Eve was unprecedentedly successful. It was certainly, beyond anything I could ever have imagined. And, a week into Adam and Eve, we would never have thought we'd sit there and go, well, in 12 years' time, we'll be into the decade. Simply not going to compute. But Adam and Eve wasn't the most fun experience that James and I, or Priesty, I think he would admit, had ever had. There were challenges from day one. They were almost, existential challenges from day one. And it was always in the spotlight, and it was always pushing itself, and it was rewarding in many, many, many ways. But it was challenging and not always belly laughs. And I would very much like for NCA to be successful in its own right, but for all of us to enjoy the process an awful lot more, and see what we can do with it and see what direction it leads in. Because I think it's going to be absolutely brilliant from the first 5 or 6 days we've been working together, and I think it's going to be great fun. So I'm pretty sure ambition's going to be fulfilled, but they're my two.
That's fantastic. That's a brilliant way to end. I'm personally really looking forward to having another new agency to write about. I love watching entrepreneurs grow and hopefully succeed. So best of luck. And thank you all so much for joining me.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Look forward to writing about your first win and your first piece of work.
Well, we look forward to talking about that as well.